There we go. So we were talking about Get the Magi last time, and we started reading through this and talking about.
Unmute my microphone.
Hey,
Um,
Mute my microphone.
hey, Mr. V, my mic suck.
you're breaking up, Shot. I can't hear you.
My computer.
Alert.
Right. Shot, I muted you because your microphone was breaking up, going in and out. So why don't you put whatever you were going to ask in the chat, and then I'll be able to read it that way. So when we were looking at this Tuesday, you remember we were talking about situational irony and stuff like that, where kind of what we expect to happen isn't what actually ends up happening in reality. So what I want to do today is kind of introduce the checkpoint that goes along with this story that I have now assigned to everybody in Summit, and kind of go over real quick how to start that, and then give you guys time to finish working through that and reading through the story. All right. So you can find the checkpoint on Summit. So if you are on your laptop and you've registered for Summit and you're able to follow along, please do so now. And again, if you still haven't registered for this class on Summit, the code is in the chat now. Shadi, I will put it in the chat to you privately since you just joined and you may not see it. So just in case you don't have it or still haven't registered, it is there for you now. So please make sure you do that. If you're able to do it right now, that'd be ideal, and you can let me know, and then I can assign you right away. But if you want to get this stuff done for the progress report, got to be registered in Summit so I can assign you to the checkpoints. All right. But if you are registered, you will see in our class, creative writing, and our project, What is Love, you should have checkpoint 1 assigned to you that says Reading Journal, Gift of the Magi, right? Just like you see on my screen here, right? So when you click the checkpoint, it should look like this, okay? And if you want to access the story on your own outside of class, if you click the checkpoint, if you're on checkpoint 1 like this and you scroll down to the bottom, the last link you should see says Gift of the Magi text. And if you click that, it'll bring up this page and you are able to access the story this way. Okay? Questions about any of that before we keep going? Anybody having any issues with Summit, with registering, with finding the checkpoint, anything like that? Right. And again, if you're still not registered, make sure you put that code in that I put in the chat so that I can assign you. Okay. Those of you that are registered, if you're able to pull this checkpoint up right now, please do so. All right. And you can give me a thumbs up in the chat if you're able to kind of pull this up. All right. And again, we are recording, so this will be up on YouTube later today if you want to kind of get caught up if you're not able to pull up Summit now. So with this checkpoint, like I said, looks like this. You're doing two things, all right? It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. The first thing you're doing is filling out this chart where on one side we have a symbol or a detail from the short story. Some of them we've already kind of seen, if you remember from what we read Tuesday, all right? And then on the other side of the chart, you're telling me, what the meaning or what the significance of that symbol is. What does it tell us about the characters or the story, and things like that? Okay. Kind of like this example right here. How, like, okay, one of the details is that 60 cents of Della's $1.87 is in pennies. So that tells us, how difficult it is for her to save money. So we're doing things kind of like that, right? And we're going to go through the first one of these together this morning before we leave. So you guys kind of have an idea of what to do. Then the second thing you're doing on this checkpoint is you're just kind of mapping out the plot and detailing how this story is an example of situational irony. And again, remember, that's what we talked about Tuesday, situational irony being when you have something that you expect to happen, but something else happens in reality. Like we saw that example of the professional race car driver who ends up hitting his family's car when he parks it in the driveway. So we would expect a professional driver to be good at parking a car, but in reality, he's not. He ends up crashing it. So that's where the irony comes in. So you're just going to follow along here. So it lists the problem, right? Della doesn't have enough money to buy Jim a present for Christmas. So then you're going to fill in on this line. What is her solution? What does she decide to do to solve that problem? And then you're going to do the same thing here for Jim. And then what is the new problem that both of their solutions lead to? So because they each choose to do these things, what do they have? What's the problem they have now? You're going to put that on this line. And then what's their new solution to that problem? And then finally, based on that, you'll be able to tell me in about 1 or 2 complete sentences, how is this an example of situational irony? All right. Again, questions on any of that so far with the checkpoint? Anybody having any issues finding this on Summit, pulling it up, anything like that? And again, if I don't hear from anybody, I'm going to assume that there are no questions, that we're good to keep going. As always. All right. So then what I want to do is kind of try and go through the first box on this chart to kind of give you guys an example of how you would go through that. So like I said, if you want to access the story on your own, you can find it under checkpoint 1 on Summit. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom and it says Gift of the Magi text. I am also sharing my screen so you can follow along that way for today. But if as you're working on this over the weekend, know that that's where you can access the story. All right. So before we dig into this and kind of start going through the checkpoint, can anybody that was here on Tuesday, and I think Bree, you were here, Kira, can anybody kind of give us a quick recap or refresher on what we've read or what's happened so far in the story? We know we've met Della, right, one of our characters, and we know her husband is Jim, and we know that it is Christmas Eve, all right, and Della is kind of freaking out about something. Can anybody refresh our memory, remind us what she is so concerned about as it relates to kind of Christmas Eve, and her husband Jim? Anybody that was here Tuesday who can recall any of that to help us out? You can put it in the chat or you can come off mute. Anybody who can refresh our memory? We know, like I said, it is Christmas, right? And Della is trying to buy a present for her husband, Jim. Does she have a lot of money for a present saved up? Does she, know exactly what she wants to buy? Or is she a little bit more kind of strapped for cash? Who can remember from Tuesday? Anyone who can help us out? Like I said, I think, yeah, she's looking for money, Kira. You're right. So she has, I think, $1.87 total saved up. So not a lot of money, obviously. Now, again, remember, this story was written in like kind of the early 1900s, 1910s, 1920s. But even back then, still not a lot of money. That'd be equivalent to like maybe $5-10 today, right? So can't really get a lot with that. So then she decides to do something, because we know there's 2 things, even though they live in a kind of modest house and are making a lot of money, there's 2 things that Della and Jim really, really value. They have a lot of great pride in. We remember one was Jim's gold watch that was kind of passed down from his father and his grandfather. And then what is the one thing that Della really values, right? Does anybody remember? And this was something that's not like a physical material possession. Yeah, it's her hair. Right, Kira is killing it today. Excellent job. So she really values her hair. So those are their two kind of most prized possessions. But we saw as an example of how much she cares for Jim, what does Della decide to do regarding her hair to be able to pay for a present for Jim for Christmas? Yeah, she decides to cut it and sell it to make money to pay for a present for Jim. And that's kind of where where we kind of left off on Tuesday. And again, that shows us, all right, this is how much she must really love Jim, that she's deciding, she values, her hair is her most kind of prized position. Almost think like kind of Rapunzel and Tangled, right? But she cares about Jim so much that she decides to cut it off and sell it because she wants him to have a great Christmas, right? And a great Christmas gift. So that's where we kind of left off in the story. Now, with the checkpoint, no, I wanted to this. With checkpoint 1, what we're going to try to do is fill in this first chart right here, or the first box in this chart. So again, what we're doing is we're looking at this symbol or detail from the story, and we're trying to fill out, what is this symbol's meaning? What's its significance? All right. So the first one says Jim's middle name, Dillingham, on the mailbox. All right. So what we want to do is find that part in the story, reread that, and see if we can pull out what is significant there. Okay. So if you're following along, you'll find that kind of in the middle of the first page here. All right. Where the author is describing kind of the house they live in, and kind of what that looks like. So we can start right here if you have this pulled up or you're following along. In the vestibule below was a letterbox into which no letter would go, and an electric button from which no mortal finger could coax a ring. Also appertaining thereunto was a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. Right. So all that means, again, I know this guy uses a lot of words here, but all this part means is just saying that on their mailbox there's a name card or a nameplate that says Mr. James Dillingham Young, so his full name. Right. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity when its possessor was being paid $30 per week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, though, they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming D. But whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young, already introduced to you as Della, which is all very good. Okay. So again, a lot of words there with this author, but if we really break it down, we're talking about, the middle name Dillingham being on the mailbox, and we want to know what is its significance, what is its importance, right? So what he tells us here is that, the Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity when its possessor was being paid $30 per week, right? So this word here, prosperity, if you're in a period of prosperity, what does that mean? Are you doing well, making a lot of money, or are you doing poorly and kind of not?
Hey, Mr. V,
What's up, Shab?
you got the What's Love joint, right?
Yes.
Solid D.
Thank you for registering. If you don't see any checkpoints there yet, Shad, give me a second, and I will assign you, and then you can refresh your screen, and then it should come up. So again, the question is this word prosperity here. We're trying to figure this out so we can better understand the meaning of this kind of symbol or detail. So if somebody is in a period of prosperity, are they doing well or are they doing poorly? Are they making a lot of money or are they a little bit broke? If you're in a period of prosperity, what do you think?
They eating good.
They are eating good, Shad. You're right, because they are doing well. And like it says here, he's making about $30 per week. Now, again, the story was written about 100 or so years ago. So obviously we have to factor in, for the time, that would have been a lot of money. So what he's saying here is when he was doing well, eating good, as Shamir eloquently put it, being paid $30 per week, he puts the full name on the mailbox, right? Mr. James Dillingham Young. All right. And then it says when his income shrinks to $20 a week, so now he's making less money, they're thinking of contracting it to a modest and unassuming D, right? So changing it from Mr. James Dillingham Young to just James D. Young. Why do you think that is? Why do you think now that he's not as prosperous, not making as much money, why do you think he wants to shorten it and change it just to D? What do you think the reason might be for doing that? He can't afford it is probably one reason, right? Because maybe he can't, afford to kind of keep all those letters on there or what it might be. Why else might he want to change it? Think about if you see that full name on the mailbox, Mr. James Dillingham Young. Think about what that might imply about the kind of vibe that gives off for the person who lives there. All right. Do we think that now that he's making less money, that vibe kind of matches, or he wants to give off sort of a different vibe now? What do you think? Yeah, it's different vibe too. So think about, do we think he'd be proud that he's making less money a week now? Or do we think he'd feel, yeah, no, he definitely isn't, Kara. So he's a little bit more ashamed now, right? And so he thinks maybe, I don't want the kind of full middle name on there because like it says right here, it's more modest and unassuming to just have the D there because now they're living a more modest life. They're pinching their pennies. They're a little bit tighter because he's not making as much money. So he doesn't want to give off the vibe that, he's somebody that has a lot of money, is super proper, by having his full name on there, right? Really good job breaking that down. Thank you, Shadi and Kira. So what we can do now that we've figured that out is we can go back to our checkpoint, right? And in this first box right here, right, where it says Jim's middle name Dillingham on the mailbox, what is the meaning? Right? We can say exactly what you guys just told me, that Jim, if I remember how to spell, Jim chooses to change the name from Dillingham to just D because he can't afford it and is ashamed to be making less money now and has to live more modestly, right? Now I'll go back and fix all my spelling mistakes, but so that's how this should look as you're filling out this chart, right? You see full, complete sentences there and only about one or two. Don't need a whole lot. So if you have this pulled up on your end, feel free to follow along and jot that down into your chart as well, so you can kind of get this started. So I'll give everybody maybe another minute or two if they're copying that down. All right, so that's how you're going to go through the rest of this chart as you're filling out this checkpoint. So like I said, you can access the story on your own on Summit. It's right here with this link, Gift of the Magi text. And then you want to continue looking at these symbols, these details, all right? And continue to fill out this chart. Most of this stuff we've already kind of read about, so it should kind of refresh your memory. And then the second part, You're just filling in, kind of as the plot goes through. What's Della's solution to buying a Christmas present for Jim? We actually already talked about this. Kira told us that her solution is to, what I like to do is highlight the line so that I can just write over top of it. Sell her hair to buy Jim a watch, or excuse me, a chain for his watch. Okay. So then as you progress through the story, you would tell me what's Jim's solution to buy a Christmas present for Della. And then now what's their new problem? What's their new solution? And then lastly, how is this story an example of situational irony, right? And then when you do all that, you are good to go and you are done with this checkpoint, okay? Questions on any of that? Questions about where to find the checkpoint, what we're doing on it, anything like that. And again, I'm going to refresh my page here and see if I need to assign anybody that has just registered, which it looks like I do, so that's good. Yeah, Shadi, I got you on there. All right. So Bree, I still don't see you on here, so make sure you register with that code as well. Just FYI, I'll be checking throughout the day so that I can continue to assign people. But ladies and gents, I'd like to see this checkpoint completed from you at the very latest by first thing Monday. All right, so that I can include it on our next progress report, which will come out next week. Okay. If you're able to finish it by the end of the day today or over the weekend and submit feedback on Summit, please do so. Okay, because the earlier I have it, the better and easier it is for me to include it on the progress report. Okay.
Hi, I'm back. Like I went to the store for a moment on my 5-minute break, and then I just took a little longer than usual. So I'm back now.
No worries, Kanaya. So
were we doing anything?
Yeah, so we kind of went over how to do the first checkpoint, right? So I just kind of went over it all, so I'm not going to go over it again, but class is recorded so you can watch it on YouTube later today,
Yep, I will.
Or you can come that's good, or you can come see me in the Summit Lab, which goes for anybody. Summit Labs are open again. They have started again for this term. So we are available between 1 and 3. Remember, it is the same link that you use for this class. All right.
Miss Kelsey still here? Miss Kelsey, can you go into a breakout room? Because I got to tell you something.
Okay. Can you send us there?
I sure can. That is no problem. All right. So again, everyone, I am looking for, there we go. I'm looking for you guys to have that checkpoint done by first thing Monday morning at the latest. So I'm talking about like 8 a.m. Monday, okay? So again, you can find it on Summit for our class, What is Love? Checkpoint 1 is right here. If you scroll down, you'll see the link that says Gift of the Magi text. That's where you can access the short story, right? Like this, so you're able to read it on your own when we're not in class. And then the checkpoint in the box up here is the one that we kind of went through as an example. All right. And like I said, class recordings will be up on YouTube later today, so you can always watch those to kind of refresh your memory. All right. Questions about anything? Cool. All right, so ladies and gents, let's do this. We got about 10 or so minutes left today. I'm going to turn that time over to you guys to start working on this. My advice would be to read through the short story first and then go back and work on the checkpoint. Don't try to do it as you go. While you can do it that way, I always find that our comprehension, what we take away from it is much better when we read through it once first and then go back and try and kind of pick that stuff out. And the story is not very long, so it shouldn't be too much. All right. So I will be here in the chat on mute for about the next like 10 minutes or so as you guys work on this. The more you get done now, the less you have to do over the weekend. Keep that in mind. And then if you have questions as you're working, you can put them in the chat or give me a shout. All right. But that's what we're doing the rest of the day. So if you want to stay here in the chat and work on it while I'm here, if you have questions, you can do that. If you are good to go, you know what you need to do, and you want to work offline, you're good to go at this point. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. But remember that this is due at the very latest first thing Monday for progress reports. Okay. So like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and go on mute to let you guys work on this, and then we'll wrap it up in about like 10 minutes or so. All right. But good job today. Thank you guys.